His name was Chief Cross, and he says, "You just won the lottery. What job do you want?" And it didn't take me 3 seconds to tell him to get out of my chair. So after he picked himself up off the floor laughing, thinking, that I was crazy, thinking I could do his job, he understood that I was motivated and took me under his wing as a mentor and started helping me develop my thought process as far as understanding what law enforcement was really about.
Brothers and sisters, brothers and sisters, I don't know what this world is coming to.
You're listening to the Black and Blue Podcast, a discussion and celebration of the roles of African Americans and other minorities in U.S. law enforcement. Your host on the Black and Blue Podcast is Dale Peters, a law enforcement professional with over 20 years experience in the business. Hop on board this Black and Blue train of interviews, current events, and pop culture conversations. So get ready. The Black and Blue Podcast is coming at you right now. Hey, Black and Blue fam, how you feeling? Welcome to the latest edition of the Black and Blue Podcast, where we celebrate diversity in U.S. law enforcement. My name is Dale, and I'm the host. Thank you for joining me on this wild ride to bring you the stories of minority law enforcement officers from across the country. I hope you get some value out of this content. And if you do, please consider clicking those like, subscribe, and bell icons right down here on my YouTube channel. And if you're listening to me on your favorite podcast platform, please consider rating the Black and Blue Podcast 5 stars. And check out the Black and Blue Podcast social media pages for more Black and Blue content. You can find me everywhere at Black and Blue US. All right, so today's guest is the Chief of Police of the San Gabriel Police Department out here in Southern California. Everybody, please help me welcome to the show, Chief Gene Harris. How you doing, sir?
I'm not bad. How are you, Dale?
I am excellent. Thank you for joining me here on the show. I appreciate you.
No worries. I'm all in for you, brother.
All right. Appreciate that. Yeah, you've been on the show here before, on the live version of the show, so with some other chiefs of police, and I believe we're talking about leadership and that sort of thing. So I appreciate you coming back for this one-on-one exercise that we're going to do here today. So I really appreciate that.
No problem.
All right.
I'm here to get it done, so we're good.
Yes, sir. So, like I mentioned there in the intro, you are the Chief of Police of San Gabriel Police Department out in San Gabriel, California. For the viewers and the listeners, exactly where is San Gabriel, and tell everybody a little bit about the city.
San Gabriel is a city about 4 miles outside of Los Angeles proper, just 4 miles east of LA. And we are in the San Gabriel Valley, the west portion of the San Gabriel Valley. So right along the I-10 corridor and north of that. So part of the San Gabriel Valley would include the foothills, the San Gabriel Mountains, and all the way down past the 60 freeway. So a very large area, probably 29 police departments within the San Gabriel Valley. So it's quite a large area. We are almost the furthest west within that San Gabriel Valley piece. And we have contiguous borders with some of the major cities such as LAPD and some of the others.
Okay, all right.
And actually not contiguous borders, but we're very close. We have so many areas that are around us that we are that close to it. So spitting distance to the border.
Spitting distance, right. How large is the city as far as population?
Our city is about residential, and the last census is probably up about 57,000 folks. It gets to probably maybe closer to 100, 120,000 during the day with the transit, especially during the week and the work stuff. But we're about 57,000 as far as the census population.
Gotcha. And
those
what
are
are
the
sort of
counted folks.
Right, the ones that are counted. And with that, what's the demographics of San Gabriel?
Demographics, we're about 62 to 63% Asian, with various dialects. The largest chunk of that being Chinese and Vietnamese. And then we have about 30%-ish Latino. And then the balance of that would cover everything else, blacks, Middle Eastern folks, a little bit of everything. We
All
have a
right.
few, some Armenian folks in the city, but those two large blocks usually make up most of what we have here.
Okay. So a largely minority community there. All right. Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
And how large is your department?
We are 57 sworn. We have some volunteers and reserve officers. So we're trying to grow the department. There is definitely a need for that, but we're at about 57 sworn as it stands.
Okay. Okay. And you were the chief of police there. How long you been chief?
I'm in year 6, so moving right along. As the years seem to just be kind of flowing by, but we're in year 6, and I think we're doing some good things here. So it's been the first couple of years were heavy,
Oh
as
yeah.
it would be for any chief. But then you start getting your legs under you and you start moving in the right direction. And we're doing some fabulous things here in this community.
Okay. Okay. Did you come up there in San Gabriel, or did you come from somewhere else?
Now, I came from the outside. I started my law enforcement career back in the late 80s with the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. I left the Sheriff's Department and went to the Monterey Park Police Department, which is directly south of where I am now. And I'm now with San Gabriel, and I'm in my 30th year of law enforcement.
30 years, man. You've seen it all. Then you've been around.
Seen a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and
All right.
I'm glad to still be standing.
All right. All right. And what'd you retire as, or did you leave as over at Monterey Park?
I left there as a captain to take the chief's
Hmm.
job here.
Okay.
So that's common in some of these areas when you get to a command position. When openings open up, in LA County, there's 45 independent cities, Los Angeles, and then 44 others. And so there's a lot of opportunity for chiefs of police jobs as they come up if you're in a significant command position, which I was.
Yeah. And Monterey Park is basically kind of the same as San Gabriel as far as population. I know there are a lot of Asians in Monterey Park as well. So probably, I don't know, is Monterey Park a little bit larger than San Gabriel?
Yeah, the demographic was the same, but the department itself was larger. It's probably about 87 sworn and a little bit bigger from a square mileage perspective, but the same type of issues, some of the same cultural dynamics that San Gabriel has. So it was a smooth transition for me, at least from the cultural perspective.
All right. All right. So you are an African American chief there. What's your relationship with the Asian community there, both at San Gabriel and when you were in Monterey Park? I know we had a lot of tension last year with a lot of Asian hate crimes, and I'm sure that's still going on, just not being publicized by the media. But how's your relationship there with your community?
Well, it started for me back when I was with Monterey Park because it was a lesson for me. I came up in patrol and some of the other specialized assignments where I worked frontline positions dealing with members of the community, and in this case specifically with the Asian community. So there was a lot to learn because when I came from the sheriff's department, I worked in an area that was predominantly black and Latino. And so when I got here, I had to broaden my horizons and understand a lot about the different atmosphere here, meaning Monterey Park. I had to understand a lot about the cultural norms, the cultural dynamics, and I had to get on a very steep learning curve. And it was really good for me because I came from a very diverse upbringing with the places and positions that my mother put me in to make sure that I was well versed and well rounded, and I didn't have just a one size fits all view of what culture meant. And so it helped me out. It helped me keep my eyes open, and I learned quite a bit in Monterey Park that just translated when I came to San Gabriel. Understanding Asian culture, understanding first generation versus second generation, understanding the working culture, understanding the educational aspect of that, and really getting to know what it is we need to do to make sure we're servicing these communities properly.
Yeah, yeah, and I love that experiencing different cultures. That's one of my big things, and how I was brought up as well. With you talked about your mom putting you in those positions. My mom kind of brought me up with that respecting all different cultures. So that's why I have friends of all different races, and I just love one of my good friends is Asians as well. Back when people were still saying Oriental, and I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't saying that, I was calling him Asian.
Mm-hmm.
He even told me, "Hey, I appreciate that." And I'm a guy that tells people, whether you have an Asian name or an Armenian name or Middle Eastern, make me say your name the correct way. Don't change your name to John if your name isn't John. Make me say your name the way your mama gave it to you. So I really appreciate people's cultures like that.
Yeah, help me understand it. Help me
Yes.
understand it. And Mama Harris, I call her Miss Ruby. Everybody calls her that. Really taught us to be, my brother and I, to be open and understanding of all of these cultures because we have to live together. And I think it was probably one of the greatest lessons that I was able to bring. Because when I was born, I was on 99th and Budlong, down in South Central.
Okay.
Then we moved down to Wilmington. We're a little bit of a different dynamic. Moved from an all black dynamic to a mixed black and Latino dynamic, where I went to high school. And so I had to learn to operate in different places, as did she, working for the federal government and being, working at aerospace and with a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds. So it was really a good lesson for me, and I use all of those lessons today.
Chief, are we related? Are we kin here? We talking the same experiences that same, my mom. When we moved out here from Columbus, Ohio, my mom worked in the aeronautics industry at Lockheed.
Hmm.
So yeah, she worked over there. Lockheed was over there in Burbank. So then we moved over there, Burbank, Glendale area. So that's where I came up because, she was working over there. So man, all this is like deja vu.
Yeah, we might be cousins. I'll call you my brother
Right.
from another mother, right? That's how we do
Exactly. Exactly. So what kind of brought you to law enforcement? You say your mom brought you to different experiences. What kind of brought you into the law enforcement field?
Well, I'm not sure that my drive to serve came from any one place other than within, because I've always felt that when I was a youngster, that I wanted to be, someone that was going to be out here in a role of service. So when I was 17, I joined the United States Marine Corps. My father was a Marine, and so my friends went to the Marine Corps. So I joined when I was 17, having a clear understanding that I wasn't ready yet for what the world had to offer. I had to develop and become a man, and I think it was, to this day, the best decision that I've ever made as far as my development. And I did my service there for 5 years, and then got hired with the sheriff's department. And I've only had two real jobs: the Marine Corps and law enforcement. And for me, it has really just, that saying where they say if you do something you love, you don't work a day in your life. I would imagine it's quite like the happiness I see on your face when you're doing podcasts is exactly the way that I feel when I'm doing police work and impacting the community and stuff. So for me, that's how it started. I just became a service oriented person, and I made decisions in my life that was going to put me in that lane to serve, and that's all I've ever done.
All right, all right. So then you got into the police department. Kind of walk us through your career there with the sheriff's department.
I left the Marine Corps and got hired on my 21st birthday within the sheriff's department. I went there. I worked custody. I left custody to go work in the field. I did some time at one of the local stations down in the south end of the county, and I left there. It was interesting. There was some turmoil back in those days that had to do with some issues that were going on at the jail at that time, and it impacted black inmates and black deputies. And it was just a bad time with some gang things that were going on, deputy gang things that were going on back in the days, that I wasn't
Mm.
specifically involved in, but reached out and touched me as a part of just being in that world. And it turned out that I had a really bad experience with the early part of my career with the sheriff's department. I probably won't go into too much detail about that here on this podcast, but what it did was it made me focus and see if there was opportunities elsewhere. And
Yeah.
it turned out that worked out well for me. So that's how it kind of went. I had the opportunity to distance myself from things that might tend to drag a brother down, and I decided I didn't want to go that route. And so I made conscious decisions to do things a different way. None of the things that involved me were major things that anybody would need to be concerned about as far as the department or as far as I am. Just we were not a fit, and I found a better fit where I needed to be.
And that fit was Monterey Park PD.
That fit was Monterey
And then
Park.
yeah, all right. So what was your career like over there?
I was there for 22 and a half, almost 23 years before I got here. And so I am really blessed to have been in a place that did it right. I believe that the Monterey Park Police Department did things the right way, taught us and brought us up the right way. The chiefs that I worked with were understanding of culture and understanding of the importance of education and learning and how to apply yourself in an environment where things were changing pretty quickly. and you needed to be a person who was going to adapt to that change. And so I learned from the chiefs that I had there, very good folks that taught me. Interesting story. So I sit down with the chief that hired me in Monterey Park, and he says, "You just won the Monterey Park lottery." His name was Chief Cross, and he says, "You just won the lottery. What job do you want?" And it didn't take me 3 seconds to tell him to get out of my chair. So after he picked himself up off the floor laughing, thinking, that I was crazy, thinking I could do his job, he understood that I was motivated and took me under his wing as a mentor and started helping me develop my thought process as far as understanding what law enforcement was really about. It isn't all about running and gunning and going and finding crooks, although that might be an element of it. What it really is about is community service and finding ways to positively impact the communities that we serve. And I have taken those lessons really to heart, and it's helped me in my career. And then the following chiefs did the same thing. And so I've grown and developed and probably have become the chief that I am today, certainly in large part due to what they've taught me. So it was awesome. I've worked just about every assignment you can work with the exception of motorcycles, because my opinion, I don't know, black people we shouldn't be on two wheels, but that's just my own thing.
Come on now,
That's
Chief.
just my
Come
own
on now,
thing.
Chief. I gotta kind of second that. I like motorcycles. I've had motorcycles in my days, and motorcycles. It's not a question of when you go down, because you're gonna go down, but how hard. So I've been down before, broken an ankle, and almost at my current agency, almost went to motor school. I was this close, and then something happened, and the chief pulled me out and stuck me in the narc. So maybe it was a blessing in disguise, but yeah.
I was in the same boat, but I was absolutely being facetious talking about that. I think diversity in each of our units, whether it's traffic, motor units, or anywhere else, I think that there should be certainly a whole host of diversity elements or components to it. I know a lot of brothers who are riding that bike, and they're out there doing a great job. So,
Yeah.
it is for some people, just not for me. And so I figured out other ways to get where I needed to go. So it worked out. I don't
Unless,
regret it.
yeah, how like on the East Coast, I think it's like Philly and some other those other spots, they got like the 3-wheel motorcycle. I don't know what they call them, the trikes or whatever.
Trikes
but,
or something.
Yeah. I don't think that's the thing out here. But hey, maybe it's something that we can bring on out here. So, you can't fall over on that.
Yeah, I'll try and find a way to do it. You also can't split traffic. So, if you're living in
Right.
the suburbs, that don't help you. So,
Yeah, I mean that's the reason why you get on a bike, so that you can split traffic and get to these places a little bit
get to where
quicker
you need to get.
without
Yeah,
having to sitting in that traffic. So yeah, I feel you.
no,
I feel you.
no doubt.
Cool. So you've been through all sorts of assignments over there, and then a couple chiefs took you under their wing. You kind of do the same sort of thing over there in your position as chief now, to take some people under your wing and mentor them towards leadership.
I do. And I learned this again from the chiefs that came before me. And I tell the guys after me, nothing's free. I don't do anything for free. Everything costs something. And we're not talking about money here, but you're going to pay it forward by helping the next person. When you come in and you get this mentoring from me, the way you pay me back is you mentor the next guy or gal. You mentor the next people and you don't turn anybody away. It's kind of like driving down the street and seeing somebody on the side of the road with a flat tire. We all make a decision whether we're going to stop or keep driving. I've made it my decision that in this profession, we're going to stop and we're going to help people, if for no other reason than to make sure they're safe and healthy and all that. But if you're coming to me to get answers and get answers to questions and mentoring, I'm not giving it unless you're willing to pay the price. And that is to pay it forward and bring other people up to speed. Each one teach one. So that's what it's about. And so it's been working out pretty good. Had some good people that have promoted to command levels that I've had an opportunity to impact. So I'd be naive to think that I was the only thing that helped these people, legend in my own mind kind of thing. Not. But what I am is motivated about the success of other people.
Yeah, absolutely. And as an African American law enforcement officer, what kind of experience did you have? Let's say when you first decided you want to get in the profession. I mean, you started in the military, and that was a noble profession. But then when you switched over to law enforcement, did you kind of get anything from your mom other than you being her son and her not wanting to see you hurt? How about your family, your mom, your friends, anybody trying to say, hey, Gene, maybe you shouldn't go this way because you're working for the man?
Well, we had some of that happen, but again, my experience was a little different because of where my mother worked, right? She was working as a civilian contractor with the Air Force. And so she had to work with people of all ethnic backgrounds, and at that time, predominantly white. And so she learned how to navigate in the world of common sense and keeping yourself in a position where you can see what's coming. And so the whole thing is making sure, at least the message and the lessons that I took, was ensuring that you put yourself in a position to be successful by putting yourself in a position not to be seen in a negative light. So one of the things that happened with me at a very early age was the first day I tried to wear my pants sagging around my butt. My mother had issues with that, and that switch let me know that wasn't the way to go. So there were a
Mm.
lot of times where I started figuring out how to act right up front. And I'm not casting aspersions or putting people down, but that was a lesson that I needed to learn. One of the valuable lessons is I had a teacher in school who I absolutely hated. I hated her. I couldn't stand her, and I don't think she liked me. And I came home and told my mother, "Get me out of that class. You need to put me in a different class. I can't stand this lady. She can't stand me. That's the reason why I'm failing." And for 2 semesters, my mother said, "I'm not taking you out of the class. All you can get a C for putting your damn name on the paper. So show up, do what you're supposed to do, and don't act a fool. Mom, you got to get me out of this class." I failed it 2 semesters, Dale, two. And I'm not
Wow.
I'm not the
Wow.
brightest bulb in the box, but I'm not stupid either. I was just being a clown. And
Uh-huh.
so what mom told me was, "I'm not pulling you out of the class. You're going to have to get through that class." That lady, she said it kind of in a southern drawl. She said, "That lady ain't studying you. She's going to go home and she's going to be with her family. She's going on her vacation. She's doing these things. That teacher doesn't need you, but you need something from her. So you get to that class, you act right like you're representing your name, and stop acting a fool." And I tell you, Dale, the next semester after that lesson, I passed. I passed with a C, but that's better than the F I was getting the other 2 semesters. But the
Hmm.
lesson that I got that was the A lesson was I control my conduct and behavior, and I can manipulate the environment around me to do what I needed to do by understanding what my own role is. Right? I understand that there's
Right.
race issues in this country and in the community and counties. I understand it, but I'm not going to be a victim of it. I said that in your last podcast. I said we have to understand it, but I don't want to be paralyzed by it, and I'm not. I have to recognize when I am, and I try to dispel myths and all those kind of things, and step up and do things as if my mother is watching me all the time. So we had
Yeah.
some issues, and I worked through them. And I come from a background again with my mom doing what she was doing. All of my friends were multi-ethnic, and so I got an opportunity to be in homes with people who had different ways of seeing things, and I got a little bit different lesson spending the night with my friends. A Samoan guy, a white guy, a couple of Latinos, and a white dude who thought he was black. So we had a few of those, and we just learned from each other and those
Yeah.
families, and so I was well rounded in that respect.
That's awesome. And then when you finally did make that decision to be in law enforcement, none of them kind of try to sway you the other way.
Um, Not for the issues that you might think. My mother didn't want me to join the Marine Corps. She had issues with that, but I did it anyway. And so that was about safety for
Hmm.
her baby.
Yes.
Mama's
Yes.
doing what she's got to
Exactly.
do.
Yep.
Wasn't a whole lot about the other part of it, but we did get that upbringing telling us about what to do when you're stopped by the police and put your hands at 10 and 2 and how to respond when you're stopped, and not to not to blow things out of proportion when they don't need to be blown out of proportion. And that has saved me quite a bit. When I was young, I got stopped quite a bit just for whatever those reasons. I won't say it's because there was a race or a color issue. I'll just say I got stopped and I was doing stuff I shouldn't have been doing. So
Yeah.
the bottom line was act right and you'll get treated right. And I never had a real bad experience with that. And again, me saying I haven't had the experience, it doesn't put anybody down who's had that experience. All those experiences are important. I just wasn't one of those people who had those type of experiences.
Yeah. 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 It's funny that you mentioned when you get stopped. You had that talk and to know how to respond and all that kind of makes me think about when you hear the phrase "fit the description."
Mm-hmm.
When black folks, we kind of heard that over the years, and people kind of say that in jest. We had a we had an incident at my agency last week that I backed on calls. I'm not in patrol right now, but I backed on a 211, which is a robbery for those of you outside of California. And the description of the suspect was a elderly, not elderly, but a middle aged white guy. So, and they gave a description of his shirt and his pants, and he was even carrying a bag with a logo on it. So one of my partners rolled up, another brother rolled up, and he saw somebody walking not too far from where this incident happened, and somebody fitting that description, and he stopped him. Turned out this was not the suspect. After we got the pictures on our phones from the place, and the two of us just laughed, and even he laughed. But yeah, he really did fit the description. And we spoke to him. We showed him the call on the CAD and everything, and he laughed about it. But it got me thinking. He was really not professional, but he was really accepting of what we had to do as law enforcement officers. We treated him professionally and all that too. But yeah, he did fit the description. And when you say not to pop off about it and know what to do when the police stop you, that it didn't have to blow up because yes, he was just minding his own business, and then he did get detained by the police.
Well, part of what you guys did, you and your partner, you probably rolled up and acted professionally, right? You're going to do what you
Right.
have to do. You display the command presence that you need to display. You have the right to stop him if he's matching the description. You did exactly what you were supposed to do. And I look at it this way: if it's legal, moral, ethical, safe, and within policy, that's a strong foundation to build on conducting whatever the operations are that we're conducting, right? And so you did that. Turned out not to be the guy. Nobody put any foul hands on somebody. He was understanding, you were understanding, and everybody went on their way to go do what they need to do. And I think that
Right.
is that lesson is a big deal that people should get. And for me, in the black households, I have relatives and stuff that some of them back in the days were not always on my side of the law. I mean, that's just that's a fact in many families. And what we're failing to do is teach people how to act under those circumstances. And I think that that's a big deal. We need to be making sure that we're teaching people on both sides of that stop, the people being stopped, the people conducting the stop, how to act in a way that doesn't escalate circumstances unnecessarily. And I think that we're failing to do that. And there's a lot of reasons for that.
Yeah, I think like you said, Chief, I appreciate that. How my partner and I came off as professional, and we didn't do anything unnecessarily. And we spoke to him, kind of gave him information as we had it, and he was understanding of that, and which didn't escalate his anxiety and that whole thing. So yeah, that's a lot of people don't do that on both sides. Yeah.
And unfortunately, we happen to be now law enforcement. You're sitting right in the middle of this. We happen to be on the side of things where there's a microscope looking at the profession as a whole.
Yeah.
And so we, regardless of what color blue or what color green we are, that light green, dark blue, light blue, whatever we bring to the table, there are elements of understanding that we have to be in touch with and in tune with. And that is the biggest thing that I think we're failing on. Certainly as law enforcement organizations, I think it's getting better only because we're shedding a light on it. It's a lot better than it was in the 80s, and I think better in the 90s. But we got to keep shedding the light on it because, in the 2000s, we're facing different challenges. And, in the next millennium, we'll be facing different challenges. And so the goal here is we have to be able to change. And if we're not willing to change, then we're really going to be in a world of hurt. And I think we're starting to hit the mark on understanding why change is necessary.
Yeah, absolutely. And that change comes with a new breed of officers out there that we're all trying to fish in the same pool. My agency, we're hurting for people. I'm sure your agency's hurting for people, and it's kind of hard to find people that are willing and able to join the profession. I remember when I first came up in the 90s, I'm sure like you, there were lines around the block to apply for these positions, and now you can't finally find anyone who wants to apply for these positions. How can we kind of change that narrative?
One of the problems we're facing, I'll use San Gabriel as an example. I'm the president of the Los Angeles County Police Chiefs right now. So I represent the 45 independent law enforcement agencies in LA County. And each one of those departments has a different demographic when you're trying to get your departments to have the face of what your community looks like, right? There's multiple demographics that we're doing. Yet we're all faced with the same problem. So in San Gabriel, as an example, we are 63% Asian. But when I go pull the applications, less than 1% of my applications are Asian people, right? One of the things I'm looking for is language capabilities and cultural capabilities. I had to hire a Russian guy who speaks Mandarin fluently in order to kind of satisfy some of those needs. And so it's just odd, you go back and you look at what they said after Ferguson, and they were talking about the Ferguson effect and how you had a lot of white cops policing a black neighborhood. As a police executive, I get that on its face, But when I look at the hiring piece that I'm now in charge of, I look at where are my folks that are going to be able to put me in a position where I have more people that look like this community. And so the recruitment effort is paramount in our minds here in LA County. How do we get those people interested and motivated to come into this profession? And it's an interesting dilemma because I can't hire it. I have a hard time finding Asian applicants. No problem finding Latino applicants. I got no problem finding white applicants. I've had some black applicants come through. But
now, do you think that's a cultural thing? I know a lot in the Asian community, law enforcement isn't as noble professions as, say, medicine or law or engineering.
Well,
I mean, for obvious reasons. Hey, even in my household, I got a son who wants to go into medicine, and he's over at one of the UC schools, and the daughter's about to graduate high school, and she's not interested in law enforcement. And props to my daughter; she just got accepted to Howard University, so she'll be going. Yes, indeed. But yes, thank you. In the Asian community, it may be a little bit not taboo, but not as looked on as fondly to be in law enforcement. Would you say?
I agree with that. And I think sometimes first generation, that's part of that learning that we need to understand. The first generation folks that come over, they're coming from a place where law enforcement takes on a completely different hue, takes on a completely different dynamic where you're in places where sometimes people deal with the police and disappear and never come back. So, I mean, there's elements to that I get. The second generation folks are starting to get there, but I do believe it's cultural in a lot of instances. And an interesting story, one of the chiefs that I was talking about earlier was Chinese. And I worked for him, and he was an outstanding leader, taught me so many things. But he had an interesting story where he had a brother and a sister, and his brother was a doctor or dentist, and his sister was a doctor, and he wanted to be a police officer, and his family wouldn't talk to him for years and years, because that wasn't the profession they wanted him to go into. And culturally, it wasn't until he became a chief, or at least a captain, and got to an area where he was in the, a little more lofty positions within the police department, that they started to come around and do that thing. Now, that's definitely a cultural thing, but I think we're dealing with that on a broader scale with multiple cultures and those people not wanting to be cops. The other thing is some of the negative press and things that we're having over the course of the last 2 to 3 years is impacting negatively recruitment. People just don't want to get into this profession for a lot of reasons. If there's something else you can do and make the same money, why would I put myself through that? It's kind of what I'm running into with the people that we're trying to hire. And so recruitment becomes a really big problem, and we're trying to find different and more creative ways to recruit.
Yeah, and one of those different creative ways, I know your department is big on social media. I know you're big on social media. How are you guys using social media to kind of promote you guys' message out there in San Gabriel?
Well, the guys at the younger end of our spectrum, 21 in California to be a police officer, those are people who've never not known technology, right? These are people who've never had a dial phone. They don't understand pagers. They don't understand any of that. They've all been with camera phones and all that kind of stuff, right? So they don't understand having to make an emergency breakthrough on the telephone, and they don't understand any of that stuff. So we have to find a way to reach out to those people that interests them. And if we're not putting our communication, our recruitment efforts in a platform that draws these people in, we're missing the boat. Gone are the days where we just show up at a place, set up a booth, and say, come work for us because we do police work. Nobody pays attention to that. They don't do that. You might as well watch some TV thing on TV Land, Lassie or something, right? Because it's just different. It's just different.
Yeah, just different.
And we have to find a way to get through to folks and really navigate the technological communication scene. And we have to be well versed in it. So I've got to hire and put people in positions that can speak that language so that we can draw people in. And that's what we're trying to do here. I think we're being effective at getting people in. But the other part of it is once we get those people in, now we've got to deal with are they capable of passing a background and putting them in a position where they can be law enforcement. So, I'm sure you're familiar with that, right? We got all these spots to fill. We got, this many people applying, but we only have this many people passing. So what do we do? And that's going to be a dilemma from now to the end of time. I'm not complaining. It just is what it is.
Is what it is. Yeah, because like I said, back in the day when you had, 10,000 people applying for 100 spots or in agencies like ours applying for 10 spots, you could whittle those down because you're going to lose people along the process anyway. But now when you got 100 people applying for 10 spots and you're going to lose, most of those people anyways. It makes it kind of hard. And like I just got done saying, 100 applicants. That's something that we're all striving for nowadays. You're lucky you get 50 applicants for
We used to shoot for
10
2 days of
positions.
recruitment with people all the way around the block. And
Yeah,
now the
yeah,
numbers of applicants are so low that that's a problem. But I do believe that the applicant pool is directly impacted by a lack of progress in the way that law enforcement agencies recruit. We're going to have to get better. I think we're seeing us get a little better along with the social media stuff, how we're reaching out to people, what platforms are we reaching out to. But the bigger part of that, Dale, is setting the example where we have people that want to become part of this profession, right?
yes,
Community engagement, all of those things are the things that we have to do to set the tone so that it's not just about coming out here and chasing bad guys and putting crooks in jail and doing all that stuff, but we are dealing with and trying to deal with the homeless circumstances and situations, that we're trying to help with the mental health issues and in a way that we're not beating people up and doing all that kind of stuff, but really trying to
yeah,
give people the help they need. So we're trying to set the tone that makes that group say, especially that caring group that has a heart, right? I didn't have that when I first came into law enforcement. I didn't care about anybody's feelings. All I wanted to do was go catch bad guys, and if I was chasing them, even the better. And you have
hmm
to evolve because that's not the end all be all. There are those times where we have to do that. That
yeah.
I
I
don't think
mean,
that's ever. There's
they
always going to be
they gotta
crooks.
be they gotta be caught in and put in custody. Yeah,
It's
absolutely.
got to
But
happen. But if we're not balanced enough to understand how we solve these problems or mitigate these problems to begin with, then we're going to have a long road to hoe. And that's just how I see
yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. And still talking about social media. So that means TikTok. We're gonna see Chief Harris doing some TikTok dances,
Oh,
or
I've
has it
done
been?
TikTok, man. I'm
You,
hot on TikTok. Yeah,
are
man.
you really?
I
Yeah, I don't
did
have
some TikTok.
TikTok, so
Come
yeah.
on, man. I've done some TikTok dances with the local
Oh,
high schools. I did this thing called,
okay.
or we at the station did this thing called humanizing the badge. When you get the opportunity, just go online and pull up humanizing the badge. Click on the one that says San Gabriel on YouTube, and you'll see me get my boogie on, man, because I'm trying to
Uh
relate
oh.
to the folks. I'm trying to
Uh oh.
relate to the folks that we want to get in and get
Yeah.
in this place and let them know we're not stuffy.
Pick it up now, Millie. Rock, pick it up now, Millie. Rock, pick it up now, Kodak. Rock, pick it up now, Kodak. Rock, pick it up now, Rhythm. Folks, pick it up now, Rhythm. Folks, pick it up now, Shmurda. Then, folks, whatever you do.
Right?
Now
So yeah,
we're not, but we're not 18 and 17 and 16 either. When they look at us doing those, they're like, please stop. They're just like your kids. We're like, stop that, please.
I hear you. I was working. I was doing the old man two step,
Yeah.
but I was working
There
it.
you go.
I was working
Yes.
the old man
All
two
right.
step. I'm not doing. I can't do the kick worm and all the stuff they do on the floor and all the stuff they do now.
Yeah.
But I'm trying to get them to understand, and I use other people in the organization that are their age, so they see, hey, the chief's doing it. We're kind of wanting people to do that within the organization, and it's really drawn people in. I did an interview this morning before coming in here with a department head interview where I was bringing. We're hiring right now. And one of the things that the most recent applicant said was, I heard a lot about you and what you do here. Now, that's not a major issue for me. I'm not looking for kudos. But what it does do is say the message is getting out. And if that's how they're talking in an interview and they're telling me things that we've done, then they're really looking at the research and doing their research and seeing what we're doing. And that's a win for us, in my opinion.
Absolutely. And then earlier you were talking about the importance of education. What sort of educational background did you have? Because I know you got more than just your GED from from
Yeah.
high school to be the chief of police over there.
Yeah. Well, I've got two master's degrees. I got a master's degree in organizational management, and I have another master's degree in law enforcement and public safety leadership. And although those things are not needed to get in this position, typically further education really denotes and demonstrates the critical thinking part of what's necessary in the job.
Yes.
I'm much better having had that education than I would have been not having that education. And I see it that way. I look at it for the critical thinking skills that it provides and that I can apply across the board. There's nothing that replaces real life experience or work experience, but there's also understanding the writing process and learning how to write and learning how to read and do research. And in this job, research is important because you have to understand how to mitigate problems in the community, and it requires a lot of that kind of stuff. And you get that with education. So for me, in the
Hmm.
recruitment process, education is huge. If all things are equal, and I got one position and I got two people testing, and they are equal in every way, but one person has education, guess who's getting the job? And
Right.
that's just how I
Yep.
look at it because of that broadness of thought that we need to have. And I think it's a winning formula.
Yeah. Yeah. It shows that they know how to take a task and follow through with it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, perseverance with it, because it's not going to be easy, and especially if they were an adult learner, it
Mhm.
absolutely shows that perseverance there. So, they were
Absolutely.
getting their education while they were working. So, yeah,
Yeah, I think
that's
it's huge. I just think it's
yeah,
so huge, and people need to get that. And we have room and space for people who don't have the education. Not everybody's meant to go to school and do those things, but education comes in many forms. And so, throughout the course of careers, over 30 years, and you're familiar with this, being engaged in law enforcement, there's training and things that will get you advanced leadership training that will get you to some places that can help you. The National Academy. I'm a National Academy graduate, class 263. I went to the West Point Leadership Program and got some of the best leadership training I've ever had. And then, I did post command college here in California. And so any one of those is good enough sometimes in the application process. But my commitment to the education was if I want people to really do all they can do, I said, I got to get all three of those. And I worked for people who allowed me to go do that. And it worked out. So for me, it's about motivation and enthusiasm. That enthusiasm is the force that creates momentum. So you got to have your head screwed on right to get that kind of stuff. And that's what I try to promote with the people that are coming on.
yeah, yeah. And we're just starting to pull through. We were talking about the pandemic a little bit earlier, and the Omicron, those variants and
Mhm.
Delta and all those variants coming. How are you guys over in San Gabriel dealing with it? And how about your department in general? You guys had any losses? How are you guys dealing with COVID?
No losses. And for us, we were fortunate. I was the first one in the organization to get the vaccine. I said I have to set the tone if I'm going to expect other people to do it. And this was long before there were any mandates and any of that stuff came out. So fortunately for us, we had about an 85% voluntary compliance citywide. So we had a very good response here, and some agencies did not have that. So we were fortunate, and we haven't had any losses. But Monterey Park, my old shop, just recently lost one person to COVID, and so it is happening and it is out there. I think as chiefs, we can get in front of a lot of this by setting the tone. Again, going out and making sure we get that. We froze up a little bit.
Yeah, yeah, you're back.
Okay, we're back. All right. So, I mean, to me, it's just setting the tone again. And I had doubts about the vaccine. I really did. I didn't want to go get it. I was more inclined to
Hmm.
just catch it, get through it, and see what happens. Hopefully, I'm one of those ones. But that's not how you lead in the department. So sometimes you got to put those other folks ahead of yourself, and that's what we try to do here.
Right, right. So do you have mandates in your city or your department for employees to have to get the vaccine? I know that's kind of the talk of the day of places needing to get that. Have you guys gone that route yet?
We are not early adopters because we're waiting for the government, and the local and the state government, and the CDC to get it right as far as consistency. um, it's come out that it was going to be this way, and then it came out it was going to be that way. And my city manager is a very, very thoughtful person, and I agree that it's not always good to be the first one to do something. Let's see how it pans out. Let's make sure we got it all squared
Mm,
away. So for us, because we had the voluntary compliance, we weren't in the same boat of the mandate. We had such a high level of voluntary compliance. We are prepared to do the mandate, but we're trying to see how the local legislation comes through to see how that's going to work. And we're prepared to do it, but we're also prepared to offer a testing option so that we're not using blunt force to try and force people to get something if they really are legitimately against it, either religiously or medically or whatever, or just from fear. And so we
right.
have a testing option. Some cities are not offering a testing option. I don't understand that personally, but hey, to each his own. We will offer a testing option, and it works out really well for us. So we don't have the morale problems and the people being upset about the process. So it's working out pretty well
Yeah.
for us.
Is it a daily test or
A weekly,
weekly? Okay. Yeah,
weekly
yeah.
test.
And that's
Mhm.
been working out for you guys.
It's been working out. In fact, our
All
fire
right.
department went out and trained all of their people to provide the test, so we don't have to go to hospitals. We just simply go to our local fire station and get tested.
Nice, nice. Yeah,
Worked out.
yeah, yeah.
You
Your
guys are doing
county,
some smart work over there.
yeah, your county is in the news quite frequently about the mandates and things of that nature when restaurants and stores and things of that nature hasn't quite made it this way east yet, as far as that level of restriction. But hey, hopefully we can all get through this, because we all got to live together. I'm in your county quite frequently. I'm sure you're in my county quite frequently. So we're all here together. So let's get through it. I'm vaccinated. I'm vaccinated. My whole family is. So
same here.
Hey, yep, exactly.
Same
so
here.
speaking of family, is I know you were talking a lot about your mom earlier. Is she still with us?
Mama's still with us. 83-year-old Raider fan to the max.
Oh no.
And,
so how'd she feel about that loss the other day?
She's not feeling too good about that, man. She's not feeling too good about that, but she does her thing, and she is a Raider supporter to the bone. She was on the boosters for a while, and travels away to some of the away games, and so it's
nice.
really it's good. It's good.
Yeah.
So.
You know who is feeling good though? This 49ers fan right here. You know how we
I hear you.
got through the Cowboys. The next game with Green Bay is gonna be a tough one, but
that's gonna be a tough road to hoe. But I was okay with them boys losing, so I was okay with that. I was all right.
Oh yeah.
I'm a Rams fan personally, so at some point I'm hoping the Rams and Frisco get together and chop it up.
Yeah, I was at that game last week too, over at SoFi. My first time being over there at SoFi. I really enjoyed it. I got to tell you, Chief, we kind of took over that stadium.
Of course, our fans did not show up. That's for sure. That was a sea of red.
Yeah, it was a sea of red.
It won't be like that in the playoffs.
Well, it definitely not this one. You won't see that many Arizona fans, but
yeah. I mean, that's true.
Yeah, not the one tonight. But I'm looking forward. The Super Bowl's going to be here in LA this year, and that's going to be crazy. I had heard at some point they were talking about maybe moving it if the COVID numbers kept going up and up over here in LA County, but I guess they're still going to go through with it.
Yeah, I think
right?
I think they're committed, and there's too much right now in the way of dollars that have been spent on this thing. It's about the money, and this stadium is not going to not have the Super Bowl. They'll do everything to make sure everybody wears masks, and they will talk it up, and they'll do all of that. But it would take an act of Congress to make this thing go somewhere else, right? I think this close to the Super Bowl.
This close, yeah, because we're like a month, less than a month away.
Less than a month.
Yeah,
less
than a month. Yeah,
we'll see.
And that halftime show, I'm waiting on Dre, Snoop, Eminem, and Mary J. So
Mary J's gonna hit. She's gonna do it.
Yeah.
I think Kendrick Lamar too.
And Kendrick too. So I'm looking forward to that. Good, maybe by the time this actually comes out, we would have had that halftime show already. But hey, for the replay, just know that Chief Harris and we were looking forward to that halftime show and the game, especially with the Niners in. Real quick before you get out of here, just some words of wisdom for the audience.
I really believe that enthusiasm is the force that creates momentum in anything that we're doing. You want to be a great podcaster, you want to be a great police officer, you want to be a great police chief. You set the tone with attitude, the part that we control. And I think when it comes to racial issues that we're dealing with in this country, when it comes to crime issues that we're dealing with, homelessness, mental health, we can solve all of these problems if we commit to the effort. That's the part that we control. We don't control the outcome. We control the effort and the value we bring to the problem solving. And if everybody takes that tone, I think we will get so many things done. And I'm going to be one of the people who tries to lead that mantra as we move forward. So, Dale, I want to tell you I appreciate you reaching out and us being able to chop it up here on this platform. I'm available for you at any time if you want to do this again. Let's get to it and do it. I appreciate people like you getting the message out. I thank you for your service, and for all those people who are out there, be safe. Let's work together to solve these problems, and I think we'll be all right.
Appreciate you, Chief. Thanks. Be safe out there.
Joe. All right, you take care. All right, we'll talk to you soon.
All right, fam, that's it for this episode of the Black and Blue Podcast. I definitely want to thank San Gabriel, California Police Chief Gene Harris for dropping in and spending some time with us. I really appreciate all you do for your community and your department. And let me thank all of you out there for either watching or listening to this episode. Please help spread the word about the Black and Blue Podcast by sharing this or any other episode you've enjoyed with the people in your circles. I'll be back in another couple weeks with another interview you'll be sure to enjoy. But till then, Y'all know the phrase that pays. Stay black in blue. I'll holler at you. Peter's out.
This has been a Maitre D Entertainment presentation.